Welcome to the Irresistible You podcast. This is the place to get a dose of empowerment to create the life you crave and deserve. I'm your host, Amy Beltran, CEO and founder of Irresistible University. I am here to teach you how to love yourself, how to drop the body image issues so you can lose the emotional weight and gain the confidence to look and feel irresistible at any size. Welcome to day one of the Irresistible You Self-Love Challenge. What I normally do here, if you are an OG listener, you know this. If you are a new listener, hello. But normally there is one episode launched every single Monday for the Irresistible You podcast. This week is going to be a little bit different because I am hosting the Irresistible You Self-Love Challenge, which means every day this week, Monday through Friday, there will be one new podcast episode dropping every single day. That's right. So what I'm going to be doing is teaching you how to be your own best Valentine. So in celebration of February, the month of love, the month of Valentine's Day, we are here at Irresistible You celebrating self-love. Because if you don't have self-love, it's going to be really hard for you to love others and do all these other things that you crave doing in your life. So here's how this is going to go down. Every day a new episode is going to drop around 5 a.m. Eastern time through your podcast player. So if you listen to iTunes or whatever your favorite podcast app is that you listen to me on, you want to make sure that you are getting the notifications on when new episodes drop. So go ahead and make sure that you do that first. The second thing is I am going to be going live every single day, Monday through Friday, inside of the free podcast discussion group over on Facebook. And in those lives, what I'm going to be doing is giving you a takeaway and at least one simple, easy action that you can apply and implement immediately so that you can work on incorporating self-love and stopping the body hate shame cycle. I like to keep things very simple and very actionable. And so if that's how you like to learn, if that's what you're looking for, then you want to stick around and make sure that you are tuned in all this week to the challenge. So that is the Irresistible You Self-Love Challenge. Again, there's going to be a new episode Monday through Friday, followed by a discussion over in our Facebook group. And that'll also be your opportunity to interact with me in real time. You can ask questions, you can just come say hello, and even if you can't tune in live, you can watch the replay because those will be available inside of the group. All right, let's go ahead and dive in to day one. So today in day one, what I'm going to be teaching you is what it really takes to feel comfortable in your own skin. So every day this week, we're going to have a topic that is around the concept of cultivating self-love. And you can't have self-love when you are uncomfortable in your own skin and uncomfortable living in your own body. If you have ever said to yourself, it's such a struggle every single day not to call myself some kind of disgusting name. It's such a struggle for me to look in the mirror and not talk shit to myself. If those are the types of things that you have said in your mind, maybe you've said it out loud to yourself, you cannot afford to miss this episode because that's what we're going to be talking about. If you are someone who self-sabotages, and you self-sabotage yourself with food, with dieting. And maybe you keep self-sabotaging yourself with all of these BS, fad diets. And as many times as you've gone on diets and you've tried different things, none of it changed how you feel about yourself. If that's you, then I need you to ask yourself this one question. What's actually going on? Because it's not the weight. It's not how much you weigh. It's not what size you are. We need to figure out what is actually going on. So maybe instead of looking for your happiness in another diet or another weight loss method, You need to instead start focusing on the real problem that actually has a real solution. And there is a valuable piece of the foundation in that solution that you're missing. And I know you're missing it because if you continuously self-sabotage and yo-yo diet and look for your happiness in weight loss, then I know for sure that you're missing this piece of the foundation. And so I'm going to give that to you in this episode so that you can finally feel comfortable and confident in your own skin. Now, I have a letter that I wrote when I was 12 years old to my best friend at the time, and I want to read you a snippet out of this letter. It says here, so my best friend was out of town, and I was writing her letters while she was out of town visiting family, and I think I have these letters because we used to put them all in a big shoebox, and somehow I'm the one that ended up with all of our letters that we would write each other back and forth. So here it goes. It says, "Oh yeah, I've lost 7 pounds so far. I've been working out and on Deal-A-Meal. I've got to get skinny by September. I want to be a new person." This is an actual letter that I wrote to myself at 12 years old, the summer right when I turned 13. And that was the summer that I went on my first official diet. I had wanted to lose weight for a couple years prior to that, but this was the summer that I actually went on my first official diet. And I remember spending that summer building up this fantasy in my head that if I could just get the weight off, I would actually become popular. I would automatically become popular. And the boys would notice me in the way that I craved because they noticed me. They noticed that I was fat. And I was severely bullied because of it. And so I built up this fantasy in my head that if I could get the weight off, the bullying would stop, I would become popular, the boys would like me. And so I would do this daydreaming all the time. And I would because I'm so dramatic, I would pretend that I was one of those dorky girls. Well, I didn't have to pretend. I was one of those dorky girls. But I would pretend like it was one of those 90s movies where the dorky girl turned popular after she like took off her glasses and let her hair down. And then, everybody was like, "Ooh, who's that girl? Who's the new girl?" And like, "I've been here the whole time." That is the fantasy that I had in my brain. And all I wanted, if I could have just waved a magic wand, all I wanted back then was to look like the other girls, to be skinny like the other girls at school, and to not be the fat girl, because my identity was the fat girl. And I just craved and wanted to be noticed, but to be noticed in the way that the pretty skinny girls were noticed. And so from that moment forward with that diet with good old Richard Simmons, y'all remember him, I would go on to diet the rest of my life until I reached my early 30s. And so before I was even a teenager, my preteens to my 30s, I tried everything on the planet, including super expensive gels and wraps and foreign diet pills to every single thing in between. You name it, I probably have tried it. And instead of getting to my goal weight, because I never did, I would yo-yo diet and I would gain and lose weight. And I don't even know how many times I have actually lost and gained the weight. It's been so many times that I can't count. And the thing about it is my weight dictated how I felt about myself. And the way I felt about myself, in turn, dictated how I felt about my overall life. And so the number on the scale was dictating how I showed up in my life, how I felt about myself, how I showed up in my life, the way that I carried myself. And I can remember one time in particular, I was, those days you're just feeling yourself. You're like, yes, girl, like I got it today. I look good. My hair is on point. Makeup is good. Outfit is banging. And then I did it. I went downstairs. I don't know why. And I got on the scale after I was dressed, after I was all makeup, glammed up, and I got on the scale because I needed validation. I needed that scale to validate that yes, you are feeling yourself and you deserve to feel yourself. And when I got on that scale, it was up. It was probably up only like a pound or two, but it was up from where it was. And when I saw that number, every positive like feeling and emotion that I had, it was like somebody took a pin and stuck it in my side and completely deflated me. I was crushed. So I went from feeling like confident on top of the world to deflated and crushed just because of the number on the scale. And just because even though I looked in the mirror and I thought I looked amazing and I looked on point and I was banging and my makeup was good and my hair was good and my outfit was cute, I needed that validation from that scale. And as long as that scale's up and it wasn't where I needed it to be, then that then dictated how I felt about myself and how I showed up and interacted for the rest of the day. Because from that point on, I wasn't outgoing and happy and excited. I was deflated. I was crushed. And that's no place to be. And when I got to this one point in my life where I was really to the point of like, I can't do this up and down weight loss stuff anymore because it's crazy making. It's absolutely crazy making. And so there was this one moment where I was standing in my kitchen. I was looking at a picture of myself and I just had this epiphany. It just kind of like washed over me. And in that moment, I realized that I had a really unique talent. I had this talent, but it made me feel incredibly sad. The talent was this. I realized that I could look at any picture of myself from any year of my life, and I could tell you how much I weighed, what diet I was doing or what I wasn't doing at the time, what size I was, and how I was feeling as a result of my weight and my size and how I felt in that picture. Just like when I stepped on that scale and it changed my mood, I could look back at the history of my life and tell you, yep, I was on a diet. I had just lost 20 pounds. I was feeling like this. I had just gained 40 pounds. I was not feeling good about myself. And when I had that aha moment, it made me feel really sad. Because that epiphany that I talked about that washed over me was like, oh my God, I've been basing all of my happiness on my weight. I've been holding my happiness hostage because of my weight. And it was just this aha moment that I had never thought about before. And it wasn't my weight that was holding me hostage. That's what I thought at the time. But it wasn't the actual number. It wasn't the actual weight that held me hostage. What held me hostage, and what might be holding you hostage as well, it's how I felt about the weight. It's what I thought the weight meant that was holding me back. So it's not the actual weight itself. It's the thoughts and the feelings that are wrapped up in that identity and what that weight means. And again, I think I shared with you, like my identity at the time was just the fat girl. You're just the fat girl. And so for me, that's what was holding me hostage. As long as the scale says this, all I am is the fat girl who doesn't deserve to be happy, to live a good life, to have good things. I just got to keep suffering until I get the weight off. Now, here's the thing. Weight loss in and of itself, just losing physical weight, is not a magic key that is going to unlock your happiness and how you feel about yourself. You don't lose all of your weight and then all of a sudden you feel like you're this amazing woman, or you feel confident or feel irresistible just because you lost the weight. When you hate your body and you're uncomfortable in your own body, going on a diet and losing weight isn't going to change that. And I know that might be really hard to understand if this is the first time you're really hearing this type of message. I know that it's hard to separate the difference between weight loss and self-love and accepting your body. I know that that's very difficult, and that's what this whole challenge is going to be about, so that you can learn how to do that. But losing weight alone is not going to unlock happiness for you and free you of all these thoughts and feelings that you have about what it means to be the fat girl, about what it means to be overweight. That doesn't go away because you're a smaller size. The only thing that changes is you're a smaller size, but you're still carrying around all of those thoughts and feelings. And this is why I have students in my signature program who have had weight loss surgery, tummy tucks, have lost a significant amount of weight, and still have these thoughts and feelings because they don't see themselves in the new body. They still carry around all of those thoughts and feelings that they used to identify with as the fat girl. And so this is what I need you to understand, is that your brain is in a constant stream of what I like to call inner fat bitch thoughts. Because the inner fat bitch is not a nice person. She's a bitch. She's like the inner fat bitch who controls your thoughts. That constant chatter that you have inside your brain. And that chatter is so overwhelming that you can't concentrate and think and focus on anything else. And so if you're wondering, like, well, what do you mean inner fat bitch thoughts? Here's what I'm talking about. It's that inner voice that says things like, look at you, you disgusting fat bitch. You're the one saying, like, this is going on in your brain. You look in the mirror and that's what comes back at you. Things like, oh my God, how did you let this happen to yourself? How did you get this fat? Or, I can't believe you did this again. You're such a failure. You always gain back your weight. What a failure. How could you gain back this weight if you know how miserable it makes you feel? Things like, how could anyone find you attractive when you have all of those roles? How is anyone ever going to find you attractive with that gut? Why is my husband, or why is your husband or your wife still with you when you look like that? You're a fat, disgusting pig. And you deserve to suffer. Those things are the inner fat bitch. That is the inner fat bitch chatter. And it goes on and on and on in your head all day long, from the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep. And when I was in the thick of it, I know this because the moment my alarm went off and my eyes opened, I already didn't want to get dressed. Because I already didn't want to have to face looking in the mirror, not having anything to wear, not liking what it was going to, like, not liking what I was going to look like, having to see myself naked, get in the shower. I didn't want to deal with any of it. And so it was like before the day even began, the inner fat bitch dominated my brain. You know, it's where you get up in the morning, you hear that inner chatter, and then you got to go take a shower. So you got to get naked. So you drop your clothes and you run past the mirror, or you just put your head down. You do whatever you can possibly do to avoid really seeing yourself in the mirror. And for those of you that are married or live with partners, and you might be strategically planning your showers or locking the door and making sure that they aren't in the room or they don't walk in on you getting dressed because you're mortified. Because that inner fat bitch thought, again, how could anyone find this attractive? That's the thought that you have. It's not the truth. It's the thought that you have. Okay? And this goes on all throughout the day. You go to work, you're miserable, you just don't feel good in your own skin, you're beating yourself up, you're having these inner fat bitch conversations. And all the while, you're promising yourself, I'm going to get back on track. I'm going to lose the weight. I'm going to lose the weight. I'm going to get back on track. I'm going to start tomorrow. I'm going to start tomorrow. But first, let me get it all out of my system. And by get it all out of my system, you already know what I'm saying. It's like, let's hit up the drive-thru. Let's get the milkshake. Let's get the number one. Let's get the whatever hot pink, for me, let's get the cupcakes with the icing and sit in the bathtub and eat the hot pink icing. And like shove our feelings down. But because we'll start over tomorrow. And to shut down the chatter, that's what you do, right? You make this massive negotiation, this deal with yourself that you just need to lose the weight as soon as possible. You just got to get the weight off. And the only way to get the weight off is to hustle and to sacrifice everything. Because you have to suffer. You can't do this in a way that's going to feel good. That's what you've told yourself. That's what the inner fat bitch has convinced you of. That you just need to put your head down until the weight comes off. You're going to tell everybody no. You're going to isolate. You're not going to go out with friends. You're not going to go have fun. You're going to punish yourself and just get the weight off. And then you can work on going out, having fun, living life, blah, blah, blah. Except it never happens. It never happens because the cycle just keeps repeating itself. That cycle is what I have called the yo-yo diet, body hate, shame cycle. So then you have an out. You blame the diets. Well, this is the way I am because I can't stick to anything. This is the way I am because that diet was too hard. That diet was too restrictive. And then you blame yourself. I just can't do it. I'm meant to be this way. I don't have it in me. This is just genetics. This is just who I am. And so you continue to beat yourself up with this inner fat bitch chatter, and it gets louder, and it gets louder, and you start to think, how in the hell could I ever love myself and accept myself if I look like this? Because if I accept myself and I love myself, that means I'm just giving in to looking like this. That I'm going to just stop trying. But yet you don't want to try. So it's like this crazy cycle that just keeps going on. And you think to yourself, there's no possible way I can feel comfortable in my own skin with these fat rolls and this fat gut and these legs and this cellulite and these hips and all this kind of stuff. Because that inner fat bitch chatter has broken you down and has you believing there is no other way. That the only way is you just have to lose weight. And you have to lose weight in the most, like, the hardest, most, like, fast way where you're going to have to hustle and sacrifice and suffer and just get it off, get it off, get it off. And so you punish yourself with these bullshit diets, and then you punish yourself with how you think and speak. So when you can't do something, when you don't like what you see, when you don't like what you look like, when you don't accomplish what you want to accomplish, you punish yourself and you beat yourself up with how you talk to yourself. The inner fat bitch is what takes over and attacks you. And it is like all of your thoughts are so mean and negative and harsh. Now let me ask you this. How has this process, if you're sitting there thinking, well, there's no way I can have self-love. There's no way that I'm ever going to be able to love myself if I look the way I look or be comfortable in my skin at this size or with this roll or with this cellulite. Let me ask you this. How has the process that I just described ever helped you? How has talking shit and beating yourself up ever transformed your life? I'm willing to bet it never has, Because if it had, you wouldn't be sitting here listening to this episode. And so this process of beating yourself up, suffering your way through another bullshit diet, is not going to change anything. Because if it worked, it would have worked the last 20 diets ago. You can't transform your life by hating yourself through it. You can't transform your life by talking to yourself like a low-life piece of shit. And here's the rub. If you don't get anything out of this episode, I want you to stop and re-listen to this part again and again and again. Here's the rub. Nothing is going to change or transform in your life until you change the conversation you have with yourself. I'm going to say it again. Nothing will change. The yo-yo diet, body hate, shame cycle will not stop and will not change until you change the conversation with yourself. Until you change your thoughts, you will continue to stay stuck in the yo-yo diet, body hate, shame cycle. You cannot hate your way to the perfect body by a bunch of bullshit diets. You cannot hate your way to the perfect body by talking to yourself the way you do. You cannot transform your life. You cannot have long-lasting weight loss. You cannot reach your life goals if you continue to listen and interact with the inner fat bitch chatter. You have to learn how to have a relationship with yourself and with your imperfect body. Not because you will never have a perfect body. I don't care how much weight you lose. No one is perfect. So you have to learn how to have a relationship with your imperfect body from a place of self-love and not from a place of hate and disgust for that body. And I have been there where I thought the only way to do it is if I hate myself and I feel disgusted by myself. Because I thought, well, if I love myself and I feel happy and I feel accepting of myself, how is that going to force me to change? I'm never going to want to change. But the thing is, if that's what you're thinking and you're still not changing, then why are you continuing to do it this way? Instead, why are you not looking for a different way? Because clearly, the way that you've been doing it, it's not working. It's just repackaged over and over and over again as keto, as detox, as Instagram teas, as Nutrisystem, as Richard Simmons, as whatever bullshit yo-yo diet is going on. And no form of hatred and disgust is going to build a relationship with yourself and with your body. And the way that we build this relationship from a place of self-love is we do it by stopping the inner fat bitch chatter first. This is foundational to the transformation to become irresistible you. If you don't get this piece, if you don't implement this piece, you won't be able to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. We have to break this piece as the foundation. So how do you do that? How do you stop the inner fat bitch chatter? How do you stop it? Well, that is what we're going to cover next. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to head on over into the Irresistible You podcast discussion group. If you're not a member, it is linked in the show notes. Click on it, request to join, and I will get you approved ASAP. You can also go on Facebook and just search Irresistible You, look under the groups, you'll see my face, you'll see the group, request to join, and fill out the questions before you join. Okay. I'm going to be going live today at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. That is your chance to be there live, to interact with me live. I am going to give you one easy step that you can implement starting today to end the inner fat bitch chatter. I like to keep things simple. I like to keep things in small chunks so that you can really digest and implement and learn. And that's what we're going to be doing over in the Facebook Live. You will also have the opportunity to ask questions. And I'm going to be asking you to also post your homework over there in the group so that I can comment and give you feedback and suggestions to make sure that you're on the right track. So to get this challenge going, to get the actual homework for the challenge, you're going to need to head over into the Facebook group. If you can't join at noon, that's okay, because the video is going to be available on replay. And so you can pop on over into the group later today. If you can't make it today, maybe you make it in there tomorrow. However, leave your comments anyway, whether you're on live or whether you're doing the replay, okay? And I will get back to you and give you my suggestions based on the challenge that we're going to do on this topic, okay? So I'm super excited about that. We've got to end the inner fat bitch chatter, and I'm going to be showing you and teaching you exactly what you can do starting today to make it happen. So head on over into the group. The link is in the show notes. I will see you there, and until the next one, stay irresistible.